And so, like, in the comic,
This might be going too far, to be honest.
into outer space. And so, like, but yeah, this is getting weird.
Yeah, why don't we just jump into the topic for today?
I was about to get really disturbing. I'm glad we stopped.
I figured it was probably it's too much. Sometimes it's too much.
We need to shut this down.
But yeah, let's get this thing started.
Burn everything. Leave nothing behind.
I would assume hopefully everybody guessed the topic. We're talking about zombies today, and welcome once again to the No Fun Zone podcast. We got Danny on the horn today.
Surprise, surprise.
But yeah, we're going to be talking about, I don't know how really this topic came up, but zombies seemed like a cool topic to talk about. So we're going to fucking talk about zombies, which is cool.
Yeah. I recently watched this movie on Netflix called Army of the Dead. Have you seen it?
Ooh, maybe.
If you haven't, you should watch it tonight. It's one of the coolest ideas for zombies I've seen since like World War Z for like a decade.
Okay, so for my quote-unquote research, last night I watched not Army of the Dead, fucking Jesus Christ. I watched World War Z.
Yes.
And I remember loving that movie when it came out. I still enjoyed it, but I also had a thought. The whole movie is just everywhere that Brad Pitt goes, everybody else dies.
Yeah.
He basically goes from place to place, killing everybody who works there and is trying to help him. And then he topples
Jerusalem.
He topples Jerusalem. He gets all the people in South Korea, all so I almost went into it. I'm going to make it a point today on this podcast. I refuse.
Let him out.
I refuse. I'm not going to do
Come on, Alex.
Jokes. Nope.
Alex, can you hear me?
As much as I want to do it, I am going to set a precedent on this episode.
Fine, I'm right here. All you need to do is access me right here. Let me out, Ryan.
Dude, I'm trying to have a semblance of self-control. You don't know how badly I want to just jump into this right now, but like this isn't.
Let me out, Ryan, and drink your supplements right now.
I'm making a promise today that I'm not going to do.
I'll hold you to it.
An Alex Jones impression.
I might have to. Go ahead.
I was going to say, until maybe we get into the very end of the episodes where we start talking about more modern zombies.
All right, man. We'll see if he comes out.
We'll see if he comes out, but I'm definitely not going to start the episode with another Alex Jones impression. So we're going to try to hold off on that.
Fair. But World War Z runs around getting everyone killed. South Korea. All the military men die there, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. He kills all of like the U.S. military that are there. It feels very much video game-esque, where it's like the main character has all these quests and missions. Everybody else around him dies. Except for the one chick, the Israeli.
She like gets her arm cut off, I think, or something.
Yeah, but even then, the one person who ends up surviving on his journey that he didn't kill, he still cut her fucking arm off. Like, it's really kind of a fucked up movie where it's like he only gives a shit about his family, and then eventually, for some reason, he's the guy who needs to figure out how to vaccinate the people and find the solution. It's
fucking great. I love it.
Oh, it's a great movie. I still enjoyed, like I said, every goddamn second of it. But
I think Brad Pitt did a good job. I like him though.
Acting was good. The visuals were fantastic.
The zombies were terrifying.
Totally.
Like no joke. Like any zombie movie where zombies are like have superhuman powers almost, like just like can run dead speed for like just brainless miles, like that's intimidating as fuck. Like you're on the edge of your seat, like oh shit, like I'm not fucking, like these guys, the slow zombies, they're almost like comic, like you like Shaun of the Dead, like fucking with the slow zombies and stuff.
Totally. We'll get into that later on. I have a plan for that, and talking about sort of the whole how zombies have changed in sort of Western culture. But really, I kind of want to hit on sort of the origins of zombies, because the idea of a zombie per se is fairly recent, the past 300-400 years or so. Obviously Jesus Christ is kind of the original zombie.
He's the OG zombie.
He's kind of the original. Actually, no, technically Lazarus is.
Yo, next commission, Jesus zombie. OG zombie.
That's good. I like that.
I'm gonna do
Jesus
that one.
As a zombie.
That one sounds exciting as fuck. Yeah.
That sounds fucking rad.
Cool.
No, but Lazarus was technically before Jesus, because he died of leprosy, I think, and Jesus rose him from the dead, and then he was alive again. So I think that's technically.
I'm familiar with that story.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think that's technically the earliest, I guess, quote unquote, Western depiction of zombie. But I guess the actual word and the idea of a prototypical zombie, not like a vampire or a spirit-based zombie, it originates in West Africa and then gets moved into Haiti, or what is now today Haiti, but was a French colony. And I think that was in like the 1700s, early 1800s. The original zombies, even in the Haitian folklore and religion, weren't necessarily like physical bodies risen from the dead. The original meaning, I think, was more sort of spiritual. And this ends up coming up throughout multiple cultures as it's a person who has died by suicide is sort of turned into a zombie and forced to continue to walk the earth, essentially. As
okay, yeah.
That's some of the research I've come up with.
Yeah. I was able to get a little bit of research in today, like right before we started. So this is probably all I'll be able to contribute on the research. But I guess in that French colony, the slaves were treated brutally and like worked to death.
Well, yeah, that's kind of how slavery works or worked.
Fair. You make a valid point. I guess this particular website, I think I was on like the Atlantic, which God knows how credible they are, but is saying they were particularly brutal on that colony, and so they started shipping slaves like a motherfucker to that island. And the Zom-bae, like the suicide rate was just like through the fucking roof.
Yeah.
So like zombie became like a part of that folklore of your spirit forever to rise again and walk the land, particularly because they were, I think they're saying a lot of the beliefs coming with these different tribes and stuff was once you die, you go back to like your homeland, And so I think a lot of people were like, if, you're a staunch believer in that, like, well, I can go home now.
Yep. Well, and that was also a problem. We've talked about it before. That was also a problem in sort of early Christianity.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, people realize like, oh, if I just, accept Jesus into my heart as my savior, as soon as I die, I go to heaven. So why would I waste my time just?
Oh, no, suicide, you go to hell. I see. Nope. Oh, yeah, it's written right here in the doctrine.
No, it turns out actually, if you commit suicide, you turn into a zombie. So
suicide doth the versed cursicatu, doth it be damned, and if thine create suicide, you will burn in hell. Can you see it? Yes. He came up for the show. He's a man.
Yeah, that's a lot of what I found too is the idea of if you're a slave, the only way, I mean, part of me thinks that it's sort of potentially, this is conspiracy theory alley, and I'm not going to jump into Alex Jones right now, but I kind of personally think that maybe the slave owners planted this seed in their mind because they had so many of their slaves just committing suicide because they didn't want. So they created this potential myth of, oh, if you kill yourself, not only will you still be a slave, you will be an undead slave, and you will still have to walk the lands for eternity. So in the idea of like, manipulating the thought processes by sort of, creating something within the culture that prevents, your slaves from killing themselves. That means that you have more slaves to continue to actually work for you. Whereas a lot of people, if you were a slave, you just be like, well, I'd rather be dead than doing this. So, but controlling the narrative of saying like, oh, if you commit suicide, you're still going to be a slave in the afterlife, and you won't actually be able to return to your homeland or return to like the idea of heaven.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have sneaking suspicions about that kind of origin story. It seems a little too convenient for the white slave owners.
They were just adapting they were using Christianity to adapt them as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They were using that model that they were using with their Christianity,
Yeah.
Thanks again, Jesus. No.
Thanks, Jesus. Way to go, bro.
A comment the other day, I don't know where the fuck it came from. Might have been fucking you. Somebody said Jesus Christ has killed more people than anybody on the planet, like 100 times more than Hitler killed, all in his name, right? Obviously, Jesus probably didn't intend for it. Of course, he didn't. No. And the direct murderer, but in the name of Jesus Christ, so many people have been killed, for the name,
Totally.
Dude. It's fucking wild.
Just religion in general.
Yeah.
And that comes back to the idea of tribalism, and our team is right, your team is wrong, and you're heretic, so therefore you must be killed. One of my favorite sort of toasts or prayers is dear Lord, please protect us from your followers. Cheers.
Oh,
because it's just like, I can't remember where I heard it, but I fucking love it. Just, dear Lord, please protect us from your followers, because it's the devout fundamentalist people that believe kind of every word that end up turning it into a narrative that ends up, it's the Catholic Church has been in power for over 1,000 years. People that have the word, and though they're the people that speak to God, they're going to use that power for potentially nefarious reasons, because humans are not infallible. Humans, essentially, like especially powerful humans, usually end up, if you go off the patterns of history, end up fucking over the people that they have power over. Yeah. And the same thing happened in, pre-Haiti, is the Catholic, Christian slave owners, the French slave owners, maybe manipulated the population into sort of, succumbing to their will by saying like, oh, if you commit suicide, you're going to become a zombie.
Yeah.
So that actually kind of like, I don't know. I wanted to bring up voodoo culture, especially like sort of New Orleans voodoo culture, because that's kind of where zombies made their first, influence into the actual Americas, is from that voodoo culture. And voodoo, I feel like, gets a really fucking bad rap. You know what I mean? Like, it's the stereotypical ideas of like voodoo dolls and fucking like unsophisticated tribes people with bones through their noses, and like it's been a very sort of like whitewashed and pretty racist kind of topic in America, which I think is really fucking unfair, because they sort of a lot of people in this country sort of describe them as, witch doctors and practicing, dark witchcraft, and they're having ceremonies and they're having these rituals to summon the dead and to be able to sort of, cross the spiritual boundary. But if you look at capitalism, if you look at
don't do it.
if you look at Catholicism, it's the exact same fucking thing. Catholicism, a traditional Catholic mass, is a form of ritualistic magic in order to contact otherworldly spirits. It's just the definitions are slightly different.
Yeah. And of course, Christianity was the first to demonize the shit out of the voodoo stuff, because the voodoo has all its roots in African shamanism, right?
Exactly.
So, you know, we're going to erase this from the culture as much as we can. And like, you know, the slaves and stuff would practice it underground and everything, you know, in the shadows, out in the dark forest, you know. So it's like, obviously you put them in an ominous place already, but it's just like they're just finding their safe place to practice their practice.
Well, exactly. They had to go off into the shadows to be able to practice, because they would have been persecuted by the, you know, they
would have gotten their asses beat by the fucking slave masters, man.
Oh, absolutely.
Those guys are fucking pricks.
And not even slave masters. Like, this continues all the way through like the 1930s and, you know, into the 1940s. When there's like, you know, Jim Crow laws going on in the Deep South, and black people are still like considered 3/5 of a citizen, and you know, the cards are completely stacked against them, even though they're just essentially doing the same thing that, you know, rich just white Catholic people are doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think at the core, it comes down from just like a lack of understanding, and, you know, like not being able to have that. We're a much more integrated society today. So like, okay, so here's kind of a random story. I grew up very nice Christian child. You know, when I was a little kid, I believed in Jesus and, you know, Jonah and being swallowed by the whale and the burning bush and all that stuff when I was a little kid. And I went to summer camp, and one of our dorm mates, there's like probably 12 of us. One of them he was like, we were probably about 10, maybe 11 years old or something. He also had he had a weird, not affliction, but he had a certain hormonal disorder, not even disorder, but he went through puberty at like 6 years old. So when we were 11, this dude had he could grow a fucking full beard. He had a deep voice and everything. And me as a little Christian boy who thinks everything's all hunky-dory and Jesus fucking saves and, you know, whatever. This dude was a full-blown Satanist.
Nice.
And I was fucking 11 years old, and like me and him ended up actually over the 2-week summer camp being really fucking good friends. Like, he was probably my best friend that year. Cool. And he was a fucking cool ass dude. And the only reason why I was able to sort of connect with him is because I didn't come at it with a prejudice of like, oh, you're a Satanist, that means you must be evil as shit. He was a fucking nice ass motherfucker. And that was what introduced me into like the realm of what Satanism could be.
Yeah.
And usually for the most part, Satanism is more just like, it's almost like libertarian political views. It's just like, I don't want anyone fucking with my shit. I want to be able to just do my own thing. Yeah. I'm not going to be a dick to you, but if you're a dick to me, then I'm probably going to come back at you with something.
Yeah.
Which seems very reasonable.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think that's the sort of discord that wasn't sort of able to happen in the 1860s and the 1870s in Louisiana, where the fucking the Civil War is going on, but you have this pocket of Haitian immigrants that are practicing this voodoo religion. And because of the racism and because of the context of everything that was going on in those times, they just go, oh, this is what black people are doing. That's evil. That's dark magic. Whereas us who are Christians, we go to the priest who is also performing very similar ritualistic magic.
Yeah.
But we're doing the good kind. So, fucking white people.
The true kind, which is even more twisted.
This was blessed by the baby Jesus.
Now drinketh his blood. Nothing weird here.
Yo. All right, so we'll probably get into this later, but that's ritualistic magic as fuck.
As fuck.
That's Aleister Crowley type shit of I'm going to drink the blood of this fallen being in order to gain some of their sort of essence. But it's framed in the context of like, oh, this is a good form of this magical ritual. where symbolically you're literally drinking the blood of somebody, which if you factor in vampires as undead, that's essentially a zombie-like character. That's exactly what vampires do. They drink the blood of their victims. But in Christianity, you just drink the blood of your savior.
I don't know, dude. I feel like I just had this thought. I feel like Jesus should be the god of like farming and farmers, because it's like wine is the symbol of my blood, bread is the symbol of my body. Take in like, you know, these crops, you know.
You could easily argue.
And then what? He would always turn water into wine, and then he would always that one loaf of bread or that one fish that became all those other things. He's just like the god of like agriculture, man.
Well, I mean, he also hung out with prostitutes and turned water into wine. That is a very Dionysian figure. Dionysus, the god of wine in Greece.
Yeah. And then that would make sense. I mean, he lived and grew up in a Greco-Roman world.
Exactly. And also, he was
going to be doing those things.
Both Dionysus and Jesus were somewhat androgynous figures. They both had long, sort of what was seen at the time, girlish looking hair. They were both, you know, sort of initially kind of kind people, which in those times was not a masculine trait.
And they like to party and get down.
Yeah, exactly. They like to drink wine and hang out with fucking prostitutes and hang out with hookers.
Why not?
And Dionysus is Jesus, is what we're getting to at this podcast.
Pretty much.
And also Jesus was a zombie.
Jesus
a zombie who liked to fucking party.
That's a partying zombie.
Yeah.
Who partied with zombie prostitutes.
Exactly.
You know?
Also, the Haitians and the voodoo culture, they love to party. You know, like it's a booze-filled event if you go to like a voodoo ritual. And they even use booze or spirits to be able to sort of bribe the spirits into not doing them harm, which is very interesting. And they not necessarily bribe them, but I watched a video of a voodoo priestess allowing some people to come into a spirit infested place, and they have this whole ceremony where they draw an intricate pattern through the doorway. That's sort of the doorway between the spirit realm and our typical, you know, worldly realm. But you also have to make sort of sacraments to the spirits. So you have to pour some booze out. You have to, you know, put some coins down on the ground, and you have to sort of show them that you're coming in non-aggressively, I guess, which kind of ties into the folklore of like what we were talking about last episode of the skinwalkers. You have to acknowledge the spirits for them to be able to even interact with you. But it depends on how you interact with, or how you acknowledge them will maybe define how they interact with you.
Yeah, I like that. That's kind of acknowledging the like kind of different dimensions all around you, and like how your energy affects spaces that you can necessarily sense.
Yeah. I guess it could kind of come down to the idea of like, I don't know, maybe if ghosts are real or spirits are real, or the original idea of a zombie are real, like maybe they're just as scared of us as we are of them. Kind of Sixth Sense kind of idea, where like Bruce Willis doesn't, spoiler alert, Bruce Willis doesn't know that he's dead for the entire movie. So then like it could be the same kind of idea of like ghosts are just like walking around confused as fuck, not understanding why people aren't acknowledging them.
Especially if they have unfinished business, you know?
Yeah.
Like, did you get into like how zombies like became known for, like from their more kind of Haitian origins into like this like new adapted Hollywood zombie that I feel like everyone knows?
Yeah. So, I mean, from what I found, in the 1930s is when it first made its break into like film. And one of, I think the first ones was it was called White Zombie in 1932. I mean, the idea of zombies had been around in the Americas for, I guess, 70 years at that point. maybe more. But it was always sort of this subtle racist tone of only black people can become zombies because they are the ones who believe in this voodoo weird religion. And then white zombie in 19 what's that?
I now understand the title, White Zombie.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the first time where white people were getting infected with the quote unquote zombie curse. Which is also kind of funny because that kind of aligns pretty clearly with like Reefer Madness.
I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just sort
and
of yeah, exactly. All this jab cabbage running around. And man, see, all these black folks are running around smoking that jazz cabbage and turning all of us white folks into zombies. See, man.
Okay. So that was like the premise behind White Zombie. It was like, oh my God, they're white zombies. Like white people are infected.
Yeah, the subcontext is black culture is starting to infect white culture now.
Oh man.
And we can't have that. That's a bad thing.
Jesus.
And yeah, we're essentially repeating that narrative over the past 5 years of like the Make America Great Again kind of movement of, oh, we have all these people who are different from us trying to infect our culture, and we can't have that.
Yeah.
What's the phrase? Those who don't learn history are doomed to repeat it.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, like a lot of this research that I've done over like a bunch of episodes, it just kind of seems like, yeah, we haven't learned shit.
Right.
We're still doing the same stuff. We're just doing it in a more modern sort of context.
It's adapting.
Yeah.
Right. Because after Jim Crow and civil rights, it was shifting to the drug war. And of course the drug war was pinpointed onto like minority populations and things like that.
Yep.
So
thanks Nixon. Fucking, I am not a crook. Fuck you. Yes, you are. Anyway, I'm glad you brought up civil rights, because that's sort of the next key sort of cultural icon, culturally shifting zombie movie. Was The Night of the Living Dead, which I think came out in 68 or 69. I think 68. But like there's The Night of the Living Dead, there's The Dawn of the Dead, there's it's a whole franchise that's been going on for 40 years. But one thing that's really interesting about The Night of the Living Dead is it's essentially a story of a zombie apocalypse happens, everyone has to freak out, and this random group of people end up all sort of having to hold together in a farmhouse. Again, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't watched the movie, but it's 60 years old. If you haven't watched the movie, then fucking whatever. But it's one black guy and like 3 white men. I don't know why I said black guy and white men. That might be my subtle racism coming out, but a black man, 3 white men, I think 2 white women, and then some kids. Ipso facto, the whole thing goes on. It's a horror flick. People get killed. The kid tries to eat her parents after she got bit by a zombie. Yada yada yada. At the very end of the story, which I think is super super interesting, and the director Romero. Oh, what's his first name? He's one of those guys that has 3 names. Something Romero.
I don't know.
Yeah. Either way. One thing I thought that was really interesting is at the very end, the only person who survives the attack on the farmhouse is the black man. And he's had to, he's saved people. He's been heroic. He's also had to do some like questionable things. It's a horror movie. It's all about conflict and inner turmoil. But overall, he's kind of a hero and he helps save people. But it turns out that he's the last person alive. And all the zombies are gone. And essentially what is a white militia shows up to quote unquote save the farmhouse, and they shoot the black guy through the head because they think that he's the threat.
Yeah.
Which is a really interesting movie to come out in 1968.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? and it's sort of a cultural sort of take on, it's Black people,
like the prevailing like stereotypes in a society.
Yeah, and sort of, I guess the metaphor would be that no matter what good a Black man can do in America and how many white lives he saves, a group of racist bigots are going to come through and just shoot him in the fucking head.
They're gonna see him as an enemy no matter what.
He literally survived a zombie onslaught while also saving other people. But he couldn't save everyone, and he's the last person alive, and then a group of white folks come in and shoot him.
And they don't even question him, they just shoot him.
Yeah. He's literally inside, and he's like looking through the window, and he just gets a bullet right to the center of the head.
Oh man.
And then the movie ends.
Damn.
Which, it's a great metaphor. The director says that he didn't mean to make that in that sort of a cultural metaphoric landscape that he did.
And the fact that that's what it screams, you know, because it's like so obviously like a huge issue going on in our country, you know.
Yeah.
Has been for, you know, well, since the dawn of its existence. So
totally. And it's kind of a hearkening back on the initial fear of voodoo and the idea of zombies in general. Is white people didn't understand what was going on, and they just went like, oh, there's a Black person, let's blame it on them.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah, I thought that was a really interesting movie to come out in that time period, and then also dealing with, and supposedly the director had never heard of the myths of Haitian zombies. He was just trying to create a lore, or a movie. He's just trying to create a horror movie.
I mean, surely he knew of past zombie movies and stuff. Like the OG one was like White Zombie or whatever the first one was. And I'm curious if he totally did make a political statement, but he just is being like coy and cheeky about it. Like, oh,
yeah,
you know, like, but really, yeah.
Because I mean, in a lot of America at the time, it wasn't acceptable for a white person to come out, you know, for Black people's rights in the time. And if you're in Hollywood and you're trying to have a successful career, you might have gotten blacklisted if you came out and said like, oh no, this is actually 100% talking about the civil rights movement. He might have never worked again, and we wouldn't get the next like 8 movies in the series of the Dawn of the Deads and whatnot. So I thought that
too. I wonder, have any of the other Dawn of the Dead or series, do they make big impactful like political statements?
I definitely remember watching a little bit of one last night. I can't remember what it is or what the statement was, but yeah, I think there was more.
So they also they play in like the political turmoil of the times.
Yeah, a little bit.
Cool.
Well, that's also kind of where,
I mean, as they should, right? Because like when pure chaos would ensue, right, the prevailing thought mind behind that socio-political structure would act out.
You saw how the world reacted to COVID. And COVID, no matter, I mean, it's definitely a deadly disease. It's not good. It's caused so much, you know, horrible reactions, and it's not. COVID isn't good, but it's not a zombie apocalypse.
Old ladies fight over toilet paper.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah,
I was walking into a Walmart and they had no toilet paper, and they're like, "Oh, but the back girl is bringing out like a cart full," and like these people were like coming at this cart lady before she could even put the stuff in, and then literally filling their carts up with just like mountains of toilet paper. And like 2 of them like grabbed the same bag, and like one like yanked it and like broke the package, and like the Walmart lady was just like, please, like, you know, save some. And like this one girl's like, I know my rights, and like just brought her like a mountain of toilet paper up to the register. It's just like, Jesus.
I almost went into it as soon as I went
Careful.
Nope, not gonna do it. I want to do it.
Let me out, Ryan. Let me out. I can't do it. Let me out, Ryan. There it is.
Nope.
Oh.
Nope. Didn't happen. That was just me being gruff and just phlegmy in general.
I was phlegming.
And nope. 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 Okay, so, but yeah, I was thinking about this when I was watching World War Z last night, is the panic that ensued in that versus the panic that ensued when COVID first kind of hit and people were freaking out. And that's kind of become more of the genre of zombies and sort of pop culture. I feel like recently it went away from like more of that sort of voodoo, hooky, spooky kind of Haitian vibe.
Yeah.
And much more into like, oh, this is a new form of rabies, or this is a new outbreak. And especially like in 28 Days Later, it's a disease that's transferred from a chimpanzee going buck wild.
Super rabies.
Yeah, hyper rabies, super rabies. But like the idea of a super bug, which I might put in, what is it? King Gizzard's song Superbug, which came out in like 2019. Very fitting. It transferred more to the idea of a superbug creating the zombie horde, as opposed
like
to
very virus based versus like culturally based, or like voodoo shaman based,
or moving away from like supernatural, which we've sort of talked about before with like the idea of cryptids, and moving away from supernatural origins more to like the UFO alien kind of non-terrestrial origins, or like but now we've been living, we had SARS, we had A1N1, we've had all these kind of scares of pandemics before through like the 90s, and like anthrax is another kind of big idea within that. And in whatever it was, like 2011 or 2012, the dude on bath salts in Florida who literally ate a guy's face off.
Zombies eat flesh.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember when I first saw that headline, when it first came out, I was like, oh shit, I don't have any beans. The zombie apocalypse is happening and I'm not prepared. I don't have any beans.
Quick with the beans. Let me tell you, if it ever happens, make sure you got your beans.
Sharon, do we have any beans? The zombies are coming.
Okay, honey, that's nice.
But yeah, that's more of our sort of context nowadays with zombie movies, and I think the media has sort of, or the medium, I guess rather, has adapted more of that kind of idea of like, oh, this is either a novel disease that's transferred from a species, like in 28 Days Later, or sort of science-created zombie apocalypses, where like it was something that they were working on in a lab that miraculously escaped.
It went wrong. Yeah.
Which is a pretty high potential for what happened with coronavirus.
Yeah.
Not gonna dive into it because I don't want to get flagged by YouTube, but
don't want to get flagged by YouTube or go on an Alex Jones rant. You made a promise to yourself.
Good point. Because if I went into that, I think it would for sure come out. This is kind of a side note, but I was also looking at do you remember in the stories of them putting bells inside of coffins, or like a string attached to a bell? Yeah. I was sort of looking into that, thinking like
that when I heard about that, I realized I have a new worst fear.
Oh, being buried alive.
Being buried alive.
Dude. And it's not like you're Uma Thurman in Kill Bill and you can do that fucking like I don't have those skills. I couldn't do that.
No, and that was a cheap coffin. Like, what if you're in a dope one? You're not going anywhere.
Even if you're in the cheapest coffin ever created, made out of like single plywood, you still have 6 feet of dirt on top of you.
Yeah.
There's no way you're getting through that.
No. Especially after a couple of rains. you're fucked.
Yeah. There's no way. You couldn't even break. There's nowhere for the box to go in order to break it. Like, you would need to be able to push through the box in order to split the wood.
Yeah.
But that also made me think of, like, how shitty were these doctors?
Yeah, pretty shitty.
That this was a necessity.
And dude, people were dropping like fucking flies.
People were dropping like flies, but also doctors were walking around just like willy-nilly, just like looking at people like, nah, he's dead, bury him.
Really, I mean, back in the Middle Ages, I don't even think it was fucking doctors. It was mostly priests and people who were like monks and stuff who were affiliated with the church who was doing most of that shit.
Yeah, well, actually, in my research, this wasn't really necessarily, this wasn't medieval. This was more like 18th century is when this kind of practice first started. So there were doctors sort of around, but like, how shitty of a doctor to be just like, it's dead, bury it. And how many times
I think I would feel that instance would happen with like if someone's in a coma.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure.
Maybe that's where my brain went, you know.
But they would still have to be breathing though, and they would still have a pulse.
Yeah, fair, but for 3 months, I don't know. And like, what about? Yeah, I don't know, dude. I don't know. It's fascinating as fuck, and I'm sure it's all circumstantial. You know, there's hundreds of cases. You know, I'm sure. So,
well, and how would you know if you did wake up buried alive in a coffin? Was this like commonly like told to people before they died? Like, oh, if you're ever...
It happened enough to where, yes, I'm sure. Like, I'm sure that had been rung a handful of times at least.
That's
why there's a purpose why they did that. Unless it was just became a thing where the prevailing, I would be so afraid to be buried alive, then somebody made that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's the same idea as if there was a sign on the subway that said no masturbating in the subway. The reason that sign is there is because enough people have started masturbating on the subway to necessitate a sign. So the only reason...
Stop masturbating on the fucking subway, you guys. Like, for real. It's not cool. Nobody likes it.
There's been enough of you doing this that we need to post a formal sign. So how many people were buried alive before
I'm going to New York City. I better fucking not catch somebody masturbating on the subway. Like,
it's going to happen.
Locking eyes with somebody, just like, oof, fuck. Can you smoke weed on YouTube?
Can we smoke? Yeah, sure, probably. Ladies and gentlemen, he is smoking pure tobacco. There is absolutely no marijuana in that pipe. That is purely tobacco.
You blew it.
I know.
You blew it. No, you said you were going to bring it out later. I think it was the perfect time. It came out when it came out.
It might make it in, it may not. I don't know.
But Alex Jones out smoking weed. Sorry, Alex. We got to let the people know.
I think he did it on Joe Rogan.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt that. I'd smoke weed with Joe Rogan. That'd be awesome. Seems like they hang out, like they're friends. Relatively.
Oh, they've been friends for a fucking long time. For like 20 years.
Yeah.
Which honestly, like, I think it's kind of hilarious. Joe Rogan has kind of been turned into an alt-right character.
Yeah.
Totally unjustly.
I agree.
Like, he's been turned into like, and I even have friends that like just crack shit on Joe Rogan. And I'm always like, have you guys actually listened to his podcast?
Yeah.
He has the most diverse opinions on his podcast.
Yeah.
Like, he's just genuinely interested in so many different things. He brings anyone on that he thinks he can have a good civil conversation with. He's not alt-right. He's more left-wing with a little bit of like, it's the same thing with Chris Pratt, because he's Christian and he hunts. He's now alt-right. You know what I mean?
Is Chris Pratt from Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah.
Okay.
And was Andy Dwyer in Parks and Rec.
Yeah, that's right.
Apparently everyone on the left fucking hates Chris Pratt now.
Oh, that's weird.
Over the past like couple of years, because he's like posted pictures of him hunting and grilling elk that he's hunted. And everyone on the fucking liberal Hollywood side of things is just like, oh my God, he's a murderer.
Yeah.
It's like, dude,
he's a fucking Republican.
It's so I guess rolling back to how the Haitian immigrants and the voodoo black people of New Orleans and the South were hated because they had a slightly different worldview without actually communicating with them and understanding that they're just participating in their own religion and their own culture. It's the same kind of thing of just that tribalistic nature of, oh, you hunt, therefore you're not a part of our tribe.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of where our culture is going to nowadays, which is, and on both sides of the spectrum, it's right and left are doing the same kind of thing of just like whoring themselves into their own tribes.
Yeah.
And not able to see that we have much more in common together than we have as differences. And the differences are magnetized and amplified. Goddamn. I almost said amplified.
I was with you, buddy.
amplified and amplified. But that's not a good way for the culture to go.
No, and I think we kind of touched base on this a few episodes ago where the teams are getting so strong where it doesn't leave much room for nuance. So the spectrum is disappearing. So it's becoming a us versus them ever stronger than ever now, with the political parties. And now political parties, I mean, I guess probably it's always done this, but it's just like so bad these days. Is like certain affiliations, like you were immediately associated as either alt-right or alt-left, whether you hunt or not, for example, with Chris Pratt, oh, I have Christian values. Oh, okay, well then we know where you lean, like wink, wink. And I mean, chances are maybe, but like, I mean,
well, it's also
judgment, dude.
It's also, like if you say one thing that's slightly pro-Trump or slightly anti-Biden.
He's really, really confident. I think he's like really, really confident. So much so.
And, everybody has been talking about how confident I am. And people think, and people will say, everyone is talking about it. Everybody knows.
Everybody, yes.
Everybody. And it's the media. I swear it's the media. And Sleepy Joe is falling asleep when he's getting inaugurated. You can't
make this stuff up, people.
You can't. Everybody's talking about it. You can't make this stuff up. I have many people working on this project right now. It's not finished yet, but it's going to be amazing. I tell you, it's going to be so amazing. It's going to be fantastic. I have Don Jr. working on it right now. So the process is being completed, and in 2024, I'm going to come back, and it's going to be terrific. It's going to be platinum gold, and everybody's going to be excited about it. And the Democrats and my good friend Alex Jones is going to come on. I'm going to start a podcast. It's going to be myself and Alex Jones, and we're going to talk about the real things. And that's right. And myself and Donald Trump. And thank God for this man. And thank God for this wonderful person. He's pro-capitalist.
Thank you. Too kind you are.
And Alex, please, if I could get a word in edgewise. Excuse me. And excuse me. And I just want to say, excuse me. I just want to say, can I get a word in edgewise? And all I'm trying to say is, hey, excuse me. I'm the president, or I was, and I will be, but I still am sort of, because the Democrats, they stole this election from, and that's right, the Democrats. Excuse me.
Yo, I got to do an animation for that. We need to cut off and just have your audio and do an Alex Jones, Donald Trump. I think freak out.
I think I might need to like, instead of just going off the cuff, I should make an actual like back and forth of Alex.
Dude, I
jokes.
know, but it was the part of it being so dumb was like the perfect kind of like comedic like gold. Like, excuse me, Alex. Anyways, we're gonna have rallies. Like,
excuse me. There's been people talking about my stance, and excuse me, Alex. Excuse me. I'm trying.
Oh, dude. All right.
I might potentially write a script for this and trying to keep it as stupid. And then
you're good at the Trump impersonation too.
You know, I've been working on my Trump for the last, I don't know, maybe 5, maybe 6 years. He has a tremendous voice. He has luxurious hair. He dresses in the finest suits, even though his ties are not too long. The Democrats, they always say, my ties are too long. They keep telling me, your ties are too long, Donald. I tell them, no, my ties are the right size. And they keep saying that there's a P-tape. There's no P-tape. Where's this P-tape? I haven't seen anything about this P-tape. They keep talking about Russia, and they keep bringing up Russia, but I have no ties with Russia. But I do think that Vladimir Putin he's a tremendous person. He's been very nice to me, so therefore I'm very nice to him. So, but they keep talking about my ties with. I have no ties with Russia. I have no ties. There's no connection with Russia or China. I've never had any negotiation talks with China. But I will tell you this right now, ladies and gentlemen, Kim Jong-un is a fantastic human being. We sent Dennis Rodman over to North Korea, and he made tremendous work on the peace deals. The Democrats always say, why would you talk to North Korea? I want to talk to North Korea.
I bet the frogs in North Korea.
Oh, and once you start talking to North Korea, excuse me, Alex, I'm trying to finish my speech here.
The frogs are turning gay.
And the North Korean frogs are making their way across the border, across the DMZ, the demilitarization zone, and they've equipped the ability to use attack Black Hawk helicopters.
People. They've crossed the 39th parallel.
And then it just cuts. Yeah, at the very end, it's just and the UN is and the UN is supported by the and excuse me, Alex, I'm trying to get a point across here, and
dude, fuck, I gotta respond to this text really quick. My phone's about to die. It's at 1%. I need to run down to my wall really quick.
I will compose myself, and I will get ready to land the plane.
Thank you.
This is the problem is we end up going off on weird fucking tangents for the last 20, 30 minutes of the episode. And then I have to figure out how to bring it back into...
Let's give me your top 3 favorite zombie movies of all time. Or give me your favorite one if you have one. Tell me why.
Dude, I might have to give the cake to I Am Legend as far as a movie goes.
A great one.
It's so good. Did you ever read the book, I Am Legend?
No. Mm-mm.
The book has a very cool and very, very different ending than the movie does. And I guess, okay, do you want to hear the spoiler of the ending of the book?
Sure. I'm not going to read it.
I figured as much. And this is a good sort of encapsulation, I guess, for an ending for a podcast about the topic of zombies is the ending of the movie is, Will Smith's character is trying to come up with the vaccine and trying to like sort of heal the people. And then eventually he has to grenade all these zombies that are trying to get to the one female zombie. And especially there's like one main zombie who is so focused on this female zombie, and Will Smith ends up sort of blowing everything up so he could get the vaccine out. But the ending of the book is super interesting. The zombies end up breaking through and capturing Will Smith's character. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. And they bring him to what is essentially like a tribunal or like a trial. Because, that's the very spoilers, fucking warning, whatever. The zombies have their own society that they've built up. They're still humans. They just don't have the same necessarily like human communication skills, but they still feel love and they have families. Did you ever watch Duncan Trussell's The Midnight Gospel?
Yes.
It's on Netflix. There's one where it's him and Dr. Drew and they're fighting a zombie horde, and then eventually they get infected, and then they realize that being a zombie feels fucking great.
Yeah.
Even though from the exterior it looks like they're living a depraved, fucked up life. In the zombies' minds and in the zombies' world, they're living in this sort of not utopian society, but they generally feel good. And that's that's the same idea as like World War Z in the book, rather, that they have their own society and their own hierarchy within their society. And
do you mean I Am Legend?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yes, I Am Legend.
No, I didn't know if both were a book.
Fuck, where was I going? Oh, so they view Will Smith's character as a monster who's just been roaming the streets, murdering people within their community.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool, exposition of the idea that the victors write the history books, and it's all about sort of your perspective. And the zombies, who are aware and sentient and still fully human, but in a different way, they see this one character coming in with an assault rifle, murdering them en masses. And it's purely because
taking their queen too.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And same thing
it's
with
like Beowulf coming in.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Or there's a newer movie, I can't remember the name of it, but with Danny Batista in it. And it's the same kind of idea that the zombies aren't necessarily zombies. It's just a different sort of form of human. But I guess
okay. You might be thinking of Army of the Dead.
I think okay, yes.
At the beginning, and I had no idea that I Am Legend wrote that kind of perspective, and having zombies have a complex social structure.
Yeah.
And that's what they do in Army of the Dead. I was like, this is so clever. This is so cool. And it's each generational, if you're bit by an OG, you're a badass zombie, and then less badass down the chain to where the lowest form of zombies, if they're out in the sun for too long, they just can't even move. But when it rains, they sponge back up and they can limp around. So most of the zombies you don't have to worry about, but it's the closer to the more original zombies where it becomes more intelligent and social structures are formed. And so you go through this city of zombies, and I was just it's so cool. I mean, the acting is bad. The writing is hilarious in a horrible way, but you get used, and it's just it's a badass fucking adventure movie though. So
yeah,
it's 45 minutes too long. And it had all this I love you stuff, and you're just shut the fuck up.
That's Hollywood nowadays. They have to put that into everything. The Hobbit, they had to put in the love triangle of the fucking she-elf and Legolas and fucking Feely. Actually, so when you said Army of the Dead, I was I feel like I definitely watched that. And now that's triggering my memory of this is why I sort of remember that movie, because I was this is what I Am Legend should have done in the actual movie, but
that would have been really cool.
Probably in good sense, they cut 45 minutes out of the film, which Army of the Dead didn't.
Fair. Yeah. But I would like that extra 45 minutes of I Am Legend.
Yeah, for sure. Because Will Smith is... Dude, the fucking scene where he has to kill his dog.
Yeah, brutal.
I don't care how many times I watch that movie, I will cry every single time at that scene.
Yeah, it's strange how we never cry for the human victims, but when a dog dies, it's just heartbreaking.
Well, because we kind of view the dog as an innocent bystander almost.
Yeah, a pure heart.
Where we feel like humans cause this debacle.
Yeah.
So it's not as sad when a human dies, because it's like we view dogs as just pure good nature in their being.
And dependent on us, right? That dog was 100% dependent on Will Smith's character.
Well, also, that was his fucking best friend. That was his replacement for his family.
So deep. That was his replacement for any kind of contact at all.
Yeah, totally.
Other than the dummies at the movie store.
Yo, it's the same thing as in Castaway, when what's his name? The fucking actor.
Wilson. Tom Hanks and Wilson.
Yeah, when Tom Hanks loses Wilson on the raft, you feel that same thing, because you understand that, like, this is his only connection to his original world and his original life, and like the idea of having that interpersonal connection with somebody.
It is also a beautiful metaphor of Tom Hanks's character drifting away from his island self.
Both metaphorically and physically loses himself.
I've been doing meditations focused on like deepening my awareness. Well, this sounds stupid as shit. I'm meditating to deepen my awareness of self. The person that I'm Yes, dude. Dude, you sound like remember that scene in Dune when they go to the set of the car?
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Dude, my throat, I can't do it right now.
I gotta say, that's pretty soothing. That makes me feel good.
Dude, the vibrations, man, I'm sure. I think that, people when they meditate. That was awesome.
So go on. You've been meditating?
No, it doesn't matter.
I wasn't trying to take the piss out of what you were saying.
No, you're not. It's gonna sound so gay, so faggy. All right, I didn't say that. It's because I'm not trying to. I think what you're saying is right. Like when you're changing, you have to let go of certain parts of yourself, and it fucking hurts. It's like killing off a part of yourself. In my training, I've been told, see if you can't like rediscover certain aspects of yourself, and so she's like, I bet your inner child is still in there. So it's like either I'm still not a man, or B, it's like you still carry your early memories, and they still form who you are as you go through your life. And so your inner child is still kind of a part of you while you're no longer actively playing that role, or your psyche, your conscious, like your experience has propelled you up into this, into this man, right? As you physically grow into a man. And so it's like, but that inner child, like, it still can be held, like, within a part of yourself. Very different from,
Well, so a lot of those stories of like having to kill off your sort of inner child or your inner self to sort of grow, that comes from 100+ years ago. But yeah, I don't want to ever let my inner child die.
Yeah.
Because if I let my inner child die, I wouldn't have done an impression of Donald Trump talking to Alex Jones
Right?
for like
See,
10 minutes.
There. Yeah.
So I still want that inner child around. And sometimes that inner child manifests itself as me doing a fucking Malaysian throat singing impression of that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing.
I should record you and meditate with you in my ears, just like, bruh.
Dude, I think I'm pretty good at that. That's my first time ever. I've heard, do you know who Duncan Trussell is?
Yeah. I've actually,
oh yeah, we talked about that earlier.
Yeah, I've interfaced with Duncan Trussell. Jesus, Duncan Trussell.
Wait, what?
We have interfaced. No, this is a stupid story. This is stupid as fuck. When I did the poster for Decriminalize Denver, him and Joe Rogan posted it, but they didn't. They failed to tag my name in the artwork. So I reached out to Joe Rogan and Duncan. Joe Rogan and his people didn't respond, but Duncan was like, "Yeah, dude," and like re-tagged me and stuff.
I remember that.
Yeah. So that's my like.
That's not stupid. That's not a stupid story at all. That's a fucking awesome story.
I'm a big fan of Duncan Trussell. I've been listening to Family Hour for a few years before that happened, and I really like what's the Magical Hour? What the fuck is the name of the show again?
Midnight Gospel.
Midnight Gospel. Jesus,
fantastic.
It's a fucking great show.
So good.
Yeah, and he's got some great stand-up. He's got some great drug stories.
He's got great stand-up. He's got great drug stories.
Yeah.
I pulled that voice off of one of his appearances off of Joe Rogan, where they were doing like a meditative, like Joe started going home, and immediately Duncan Trussell went into the Buddhist. And so that's where I got that from. Duncan Trussell's the fucking best.
Yeah, he's a good character.
He might be my like idol of just being a present person.
Fair.
But also being a very flawed person and accepting your flaws. Sort of understanding like, this is where I am. This is who I am. I'm trying to be as good and as positive as I can, but I'm also gonna fuck up, man. And, and I'm Duncan Trussell, man. And, one time I took LSD, man, and dude, it fucking blew my mind. And then I don't know, like I started doing all this meditation, and now I'm into fucking Buddhism, man. And the Buddhism is just once I started meditating, Rami Shankras, my mentor, my guru. I feel like such an asshole that I just said guru, man. I'm such
a How do you do this, dude? You fucking got him.
I got a good Duncan Trussell, I think.
Can you get Joe?
Joe Rogan's hard. Fuck, I don't know if I could do a Joe Rogan.
That was fucking really good Duncan Trussell.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it just comes to you, man. And sometimes
what if he's the dude?
What? I'm sorry. What?
You should be Duncan Trussell as the mediator between Alex Jones and Donald Trump.
Oh my God, that would be fucking amazing, dude. Dude, thank you so much, man. That's just okay. So I'm trying to feel grateful in the moment. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to just sort of, I don't know what to say anymore. Like, I try to practice Buddhism.
Excuse me now, Duncan. Duncan, it's my turn now, please.
And Duncan, I appreciate what you're saying, but I'm just trying to get a point out, man. You gotta let me fucking finish. It's almost a little like Morty from Rick and Morty, just a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
But just like a little bit more compassion, man. And then you just got to throw some hippie vibes on it,
Wow.
And Joe, you just blew my mind. Joe. Okay, all right. So so I took LSD. We were at a Fish concert, man, and and then we saw the Grateful Dead the next night, and we got a blotter of acid.
Duncan Trussell, please, Duncan Trussell. I have some very important words. We're gonna throw a rally.
Well, but I'm just trying to. Can I just? Okay. All right. I'm sorry. The Buddhist inside of me wants to just. Okay, let's just take a break really quick, and we'll just let you go. Okay. So Donald, I had a question for you. I don't know, man. I don't know. Okay. All right. Anyway, let's.
This is incredible, dude.
We're
going to get a laundry list of people going. You're going to become like a impressionist.
Oh God.
This was the first time trying to Duncan Trussell impersonation?
Oh no, I've done it before for sure.
Fair.
First time on wax though. First time ever being recorded.
There you go.
But there's
take it for a ride.
I don't know if Duncan's famous enough for anyone to have done an impersonation of him. So I think I might be a first. I think I might be a groundbreaker.
There you go.
Oh, fuck.
Well, we tried to get back to zombies and we kind of failed, but we talked about World War Z, I Am Legend. It's good.
Yeah.
I Am Legend, I think, is my favorite zombie movie. And now with the book, I should read the end of the book.
I've got it if you want to borrow it.
Yeah, man.
Around here.
Cool.
All right, let's real quick in 2 minutes try and land the plane and get some sort of outro.
Let's do it.
And I'm gonna do it as Duncan Trussell, man. And okay,
sounds lovely. Sounds great.
Fuck. I don't know what's gonna happen with the editing of this podcast because it kind of went off the fucking rails like a lot of them do. But
I think you gotta let it flow. We'll see. You're the master.
You gotta let it flow a little bit, but also like if we're wasting too much time doing impressions, then it throws off the momentum. We lose. Especially if we're trying to come at these with a core agenda of we're talking about X.
Hey, we tried.
We're
both high on marijuana.
True.
Okay.
I don't know if this is a Light Your Doobies Up podcast, though. I think this was maybe more informative and a little bit less.
I would say smoke some weed for this one.
Well, I would say smoke some weed for everyone. Yeah. But it isn't a necessity.
No, I'd say you can get through on this in any state.
If you like zombies, you'll probably like it. If you don't, you might not. I don't know. Maybe you will.
If you like impersonations, you'll love it.
We'll see how many of them are left in there. They went a little bit long.
You got to at least save all of them. They don't have to go into this, but save all of them.
Everything that gets recorded gets saved and gets cataloged in some sort of way. So it's still there in the zeitgeist. But whether or not it gets put out into the world of media. Didn't even mean to, but almost went into Alex Jones right there, just going, fuck, yeah, I guess that's zombie culture. That's the essence, starting from West Africa, moving into sort of Haiti, and then making its way into New Orleans. It's kind of an interesting flow of going from a religious aspect and then moving into more of just a cultural phenomenon in like the late 20th century.
Yeah.
And at that point also kind of being whitewashed, where it kind of removes the sort of
like appropriated almost.
Yeah, exactly. It removes like the initial ground structure of what it was when it was first sort of created, and the lore and the mythology behind it. And white people found a cool way to make money, so they just kept fucking hammering it into the ground.
Yeah.
But that's fine, because that's what happens.
Yeah. On behalf of white men everywhere, are bad.
I think that's the way to end almost any episode, is just be on behalf of all white men everywhere. My bad.
I mean,
that should be the footnote for every history book ever written in Western culture.
Should be a little heads up warning at the beginning of every book.
On behalf of all white people, are bad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then just like point to a picture of Karen. This is our bad. This is also our fault.
On that bright and cheery fucking note, thank you guys for listening and watching.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, keep keep watching, subscribe.
Keep watching.
Download.
Look out for zombies. Let us know what your favorite zombie movie is.
Yeah. Hey guys. Yeah. Sound off in the comments.
This is my time. Signing off.
All right.
Another successful episode.
We'll see.
Yeah. We'll see about that. Hey, no spooky. We didn't